I'm Holly and I'm on team here at C3, and originally I'm from South Wales, and lots of people get surprised when I say that because I don't really have the accent or anything. My parents grew up in England, so I always kind of picked up their accent, and then when I was 18 I moved to London and kind of picked up that as well. But I very much associate, when people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm from Wales, and I really enjoyed my childhood in Wales. It's just such a beautiful country, and the community in Wales, just love them and love going back, and hearing that Welsh accent always just brings me back to home. In Wales, there is such a heart for the identity of being Welsh. I mean, historically, with different things that have happened with the other nations around Wales, they've lost bits of their culture, and so there's such a great heart and passion for bringing bits of those culture back, and one of those is the language. So we had to learn Welsh in school, and we also got to do lots of traditional Welsh cultural things. So one of the big ones is called the Eisteddfod, and that is when we would take a whole day at school doing lots of different arts and sports and competitions. There'd be lots around singing and doing performances and drama. And it was really to bring out all those kind of traditional cultures of Wales and celebrate it. And we did that within school, but also there's a whole national Eisteddfod for everyone to get involved in, and would love doing that. And another big cultural element of Wales is supporting our people when they're doing things like sport or singing and things across the world. So supporting people in the Olympics, and of course rugby. We'd have such a huge culture around supporting our rugby teams in the Six Nations and in World Cups, and everyone would really rally around that. And my dad, who is English, would not be so impressed when both me and my sister would be supporting Wales over England in the Six Nations. The church I grew up in was quite similar to C3 in many ways. It was evangelical, charismatic church. We had electric guitars and drums and everything. So some elements of the C3 church is very similar. Certainly one of the things I really remember and recall from there is the absolute passion for sung worship. And I suppose maybe it is a bit of a Welsh stereotype that singing is a great passion across Wales. Things like the male voice choirs. Anywhere you go in Wales, singing is a big thing. And I do remember during the worship, and one thing I loved was we would take hymns, very traditional hymns, but we would put them with the electric guitars and the drums and bring up the tempo. And the power and the wisdom of the words in hymns still would speak to us, even though if they were written 100 years ago. The other thing I remember about sung worship in my church is quite often people would have prophecies or words of knowledge that they felt that was for someone in the congregation. So they would come up, they'd whisper something into the pastor's ear, and then he'd give the nod for them to go forward to the microphone, and then they would bring that word of knowledge. Although we'd always be like a little bit curious when someone was not given the nod to go forward, what they wanted to bring. Also, we would have during the worship, maybe in those kind of musical interludes, there'd be people shouting out from the congregation in praise of God, bringing him glory. Maybe they're shouting out in tongues, and you could just really vibrantly feel the Holy Spirit among the congregation. Sometimes when I chat to people about Wales and coming from Wales, I get a sense that people kind of see it as one nation. But just like you would have in England, where you'd have very different cultures for people that live in London compared to Newcastle or the Yorkshire Dales, bits of Wales are also really different. So I grew up in Newport, which has a very city culture, and then moved up into the valleys when I was a teenager. And again, that had quite a different culture, even though they're only about 20 miles apart. And similarly, if you go over to Cardiff or further into West Wales, or up into Mid Wales and North Wales, they're all really quite different cultures. And could even say that when we're learning Welsh, South Welsh is quite different to North Wales in terms of accent and some words. So yeah, I just want to get across that people from Wales are, while we're unified behind a lot of things, we do still have quite different cultures and the way that we see things, and maybe the way that we do church. So one thing, certainly since living outside of Wales, I've noticed that I get quite a lot is people asking, oh, where are you from? And I'll say, oh, I'm from Wales. And I almost get that like little slight, I can see it in their eyes, that slight little shock, because they're not expecting me to say that. And then sometimes they might go, oh, where are your parents from? And I'm like, well, they grew up in England. So I just kind of want to say to people that I know my skin's brown and it goes back into my grandparents to why that is. But to not make the assumption just by what someone looks like of where they're actually from. And also, yeah, I get people asking me, oh, you're from India, and they want me to talk about any sort of maybe Indian culture. And I have none of that. My culture is in Wales. So yeah, just to say, don't assume. If you're going to ask those questions, ask it about the person that they are and not make any assumptions on maybe how they look or how they act or how their accent now is.